Good morning, Janice.
Morning, Anthony.
Today we'll discuss some estate planning do's and don't bothers for solo agers. So since we see so many probates, it's what we do,
Yep.
we do see the parts of your planning that actually helped and which ones didn't really matter that much, sort of at the end when somebody passes away and we actually
Yep.
are out there taking care of stuff. So, basically we don't want you to spend too much of your valuable time on planning that really doesn't move the needle, that really doesn't do anything for the probate process. This is really based on, we do a lot of annual check-in calls with our clients, as you know, for folks who name us as a professional executor to make sure that we stay in touch, make sure that we're both alive.
Yeah. Minor details.
Yeah, and when we do those check-in calls or emails, a lot of folks are like, oh, that's great, thanks for checking in. I've been meaning to get to this, and I'm going to, do X, Y, and Z. And often my response is, hey, that's I appreciate the effort, but that doesn't really help us at the end of the day. So spend your time and on other things. Enjoy.
Right.
I just freed up a couple hours for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so first we'll start with the estate planning do's. Yeah, the things that do actually help. Yeah. Okay, so good or proper storage of the original documents, that's something you should attend to and make sure it's on track. We've talked about this in the past, we'll throw in some links to those other episodes, but bottom line is it's best to keep the original with either your professional executor or some other third party. Do not keep it yourself for reasons. It's hard. There's a couple of reasons for that. It's hard for us to get access after you've passed away if it's locked in your apartment.
Right.
And also, if a third party loses your will, we can still go forward with a PDF or a copy. But if you lose your will, it's presumed that you intentionally destroyed it, and therefore the will doesn't exist. So, and then also don't put it in a safe deposit box. Similar to your apartment, it's hard for us to get access to the safe deposit box if the will is in there. It's not impossible, but it's just So yeah,
Way hard. Right.
Yeah. So taking care of how you store your original documents, take a look at that when you're doing your planning cleanup. Also, keep your executor listed as an emergency contact and up to date. Basically, think through who will notice or know that you've passed away, and will they know to contact your executor? Okay.
Right.
Think building management, neighbor, perhaps primary care physician. I think. Actually, I don't know the statistic, Janice. Maybe you do. Do most people die at home or in the hospital?
Oh, good question. I think I would guess it was a good mixture. Yeah. But I know we talked about this before, the building manager, right? Or the what do you call it when the gentleman that's out front, they see you every day, come and go. So that's a good person to have a list of who they should notify if they haven't seen you in a few days. Yeah,
here in the city, most buildings have a emergency contact form that you fill out with the management office. So that should be pretty straightforward. Just make sure they know to tell me or whoever is your executor if they're the ones to discover passing. So morbid, but yeah.
I know. But I think when you're asking about home or at the hospital, if you have it on file with your physician, usually the hospitals are all linked in, so that information is somewhere, or next of kin and such.
Cool. And the last due or estate planning due for solo agers is to, we talk about this a lot, to make sure take a look at your beneficiary designations. We actually don't like them, so we've talked about that before. Well, we'll link to that one. But just make sure they're up to date, or better yet, get rid of them because they cause a lot of problems.
Yes, make sure it's not your ex-spouse from 20 years ago you forgot to remove from your
Just so many reasons we've talked about.
Yeah, we've seen. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the don't bothers, the category of estate planning tasks or chores you've sort of given to yourself that don't really help that much, so don't bother. We get a lot of treasure maps, and what I mean by that is we get like a very detailed and lengthy emails or letters, which obviously our clients put a lot of effort into, so we do appreciate the effort. But it's like, I put my wills in this drawer by my bed, and I put my tax returns are kept over here, and my keys are usually hanging here. What we find happens is that more often than not, things have changed by the time you've passed. Right. So these are almost like kind of a waste of time, where like we look and like, oh, it's not there. So
Not there. Does it exist? Is it gone? Did it move? Yeah.
So it puts us in more of a position where it's like, did that ever exist, or like you said, or did she, destroy it? So it's almost better if we start from scratch and do our own search protocol. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but when I take something out of where something is, normally I don't put it back in that exact location.
I mean, some people do. I get it, but
okay, not
just
me.
What we've seen is that it doesn't help that much.
Nope. No.
Another thing that our clients tend to do that doesn't seem to help that much is they send us contact lists, contact information for who we should contact once we're the executor, like who's their super or building manager, who's their financial advisor. But same thing, those actually end up changing quite often. So we just have this list of names and numbers, and we call them and like, oh, I don't work there anymore, or oh no, she fired me as a client
I'm
years
gone,
ago.
and yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take that one doesn't take much effort, but it doesn't really help us that much either. Yeah.
Right.
And then
Just
lastly,
trying to save you a little stress with this.
Exactly. We're just trying to make your life easier, basically, so that you don't spend time on this that's not particularly helpful. And then the last kind of don't bother category is detailed lists of assets. I think we have folks who are spending a lot of time, giving account numbers and, even balances and which stocks are in there. We don't need that level of information. As I'll get into later, even just a high level of information is enough of a clue for us to do our job.
Right.
We don't need that really, really nitty gritty detail. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, balances, they change every day.
I mean, yeah, come on.
You have a couple times a day, depending on what you have. Yeah.
So lastly, we have a category that's sort of in between that's sort of helpful. So cool if you want to do it, but if you don't want to spend any time doing it, that's totally fine as well. Passwords. We have lists. We get either a sheet of paper or even, an app or a software that has a password manager to give us all of our clients' passwords. Yes, it's very nice to have, but just realize that post-death, we're not really allowed to just log into your bank account and transact.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't help that much. Email is a little more useful because, these days your email has more information in it than your physical mailbox, your postal mailbox. But even that, I mean, Janice does the heavy lifting in that area. She'll figure it out. She doesn't need we get the email address, access to the email maybe once out of every 5 estates. Would you say? Maybe less.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think I've ever gone through an email ever.
Yeah.
To look for things because it's already in other places, right? And we definitely don't log into the financial institutions because at that point you can't because they've already passed. I think the helpful one would be just the phone password. We found that recently where having the phone login, just the 4-digit code, got us all of the contacts so we could notify people that didn't necessarily know someone had passed. So that was helpful.
That was helpful, but then going through it's not like we're scrolling through. I mean, phones have a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
And only like a small percent of it is actually useful to what we have to do.
Exactly.
So, but like you said, the address book was pretty useful.
That was it. I mean, that's what we used it for. But that helped because we knew we were looking for someone in particular. So that was helpful. But we didn't scroll through and look at we didn't
That's
need
a lot
any
of time.
Of
I mean, think of all the time we spend basically like tethered to our phones.
right. Oh yeah.
Okay, so another area that's sort of helpful is like we talked about before, a high-level asset list. Just which banks, which institutions, and again, even those change. Because people get frustrated with, I don't know, the local teller, and they change their banks. So, again, these are just clues. None of this needs to be set in stone. We check your 1099s, we check your tax returns, we go through your mail. We do what we need to do to really investigate and figure it all out. But clues are helpful, but don't spend too much time on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, the generic name is great, like TIAA. Yeah. That's it, or some sort of, just generic.
And then lastly, we said don't spend too much time. As you mentioned, Janice, with the address book, some key contacts is useful. Folks who are unlikely to change, like even if you're a solo agent, you do have next of kin, the family who you would like notified, your best friends that kind of changes a lot too, actually. We've
True.
seen
primary
care physician, that doesn't change too often. Maybe your CPA, that tends to stick longer than your financial advisor. Think folks like that. Yeah.
Yep. especially if you've had the same one for 20 years. I mean, it's a pretty good indication you're going to continue on with that person. And yeah.
So that's it. This is based on our conversations and emails with our solo agers of what folks are doing and what we're kind of telling them. Don't bother there, or thank you for doing that.
Yeah, what you're saying is don't spend too much time on some things. Don't stress. This is already sometimes stressful.
Yep.
And if you haven't already, click the link down below for a free copy of Anthony's book, The Solo Ager Estate Plan.
Perfect. Please send in your questions. We're happy to keep talking about this and trying to help all the folks who are calling in. Thank you, Janice. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we will talk soon next time. Bye.
Talk soon.